Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this, indeed, the first stream of 2021. Obviously, I want to wish everyone a very happy new year. Wish it could be otherwise, in the sense of I like to wish it, but I'm not sure it's going to happen. However, I've had technical problems today, folks, which is why this is an audio-only stream. That should be resolved for tomorrow, but I'm stuck on audio, which you might say is a good thing. However, I didn't want to let the events of the last 30 minutes or so go by without comment. What I thought I would do actually is let me just put up something to lighten the mood a little bit, if I can. And here you go. Doesn't Boris look good? Yes. You know, I saw this little meme and I thought to myself, yeah, like all good memes, there's an element of truth in it, isn't there? Because, of course, we know that it's not that unlikely that by 2035 we will almost have got the virus beat. But it did amuse me, this. So hope you enjoyed the little meme. And, of course, that brings us to what I really wanted to talk to you about, which is the new lockdown for England as cases surge. Oh, my. So the cases are surging, apparently, and because of that, you're going to have to use your liberty. Hope you're okay with that one. Let's just have a look at what's been going on and what's been announced. So if I can just do this with you, folks, bear with me. Show screen. Blimey, it's right. Let's see if I can get this going correctly. Okay, so struggling here a little bit, so we'll take that off. Here we go. What do you like of this? What do you think of this one? Those of you in England, everyone must stay at home except for permitted reasons. So the government's telling you to stay at home during a new coronavirus lockdown happening at midnight. Boris has just announced, yes, schools and colleges are going to have to close. Remote learning until at least the middle of February. Those in what else he said? Let's have a just scan down. Here's the new rules, folks. Here's the new rules. People cannot leave their homes except for certain reasons, like the first lockdown. What are the reasons to leave the home? Well, if you have to get medical needs or food shopping or exercise, then those would be acceptable reasons. Work for those who cannot do so from home. I say all schools and colleges closed from Tuesday with remote learning until sometime later in the year, I guess, February. Nurseries are staying open. End of the year exams will not take place this summer as normal. University students aren't going back to campus. Restaurants will continue to offer delivery for food, but takeaway alcohol will be banned. Outdoor sports venues, you know, those places you go to stay fit, they must close. And amateur team sports are not allowed, but elite sports such as Premier League football can continue. So, okay, let's jump out of that one, folks. Thoughts on that one? How are you feeling about that then? Let's just have a look. I'm just scrolling through your comments here. Yeah, I mean, Mark makes a good point. For those crying out for the country to shut down again, please answer these questions. How many children must suffer in order to make you feel safe? How many families must go bankrupt in order to make you feel safe? How many business owners should lose everything to make you feel safe? How many people have to lose their jobs to make you feel safe? Mark, you couldn't have put it better. You couldn't have said it any better than me. Some other comments I'm going to put up. Joe makes his opinions pretty clear. If you work for the small retail, own your small business, you're screwed. So let me see what else. Jagger says, bet you're loving it. David, why would I be loving it? Jags, are you insane? So yeah, I think top comment of the um, of so far comes from Mark. Jagger makes a very, very sensible comment. Remote learning is a joke. A fraction of the absolutely right. Absolutely right. Just trying to see what else you guys have been saying. Oh, hi Harry, by the way, and Connor. Great meme, great meme. I had no idea where I got that one from, but anyway, listen. So you know, this is where we're at, folks. It's March all over again, isn't it? Now, do you remember back in March last year, we were told. I see Ken's made the comment here. Nolan show cancelled due to new lockdown measures. He has nothing left to complain about. The thing is, you will all remember last March when we were told, listen, by Boris, listen, folks, this is a national emergency. We've got 3 weeks to flatten the curve. So, stay at home, wash your hands, save the NHS. 3 months became, or sorry, 3 weeks became 3 months, became 6 months. Then in the summer, Boris told us he didn't see there would be any need for a further lockdown. Then there was a further lockdown in obviously November, December. But when he announced this further lockdown, do you remember Boris telling us that the tier system was only going to be like a short-term thing, and hopefully everyone would be moved out of the top tiers? Instead, he moved the poor suckers who believed that into tier 4. And now, essentially, as far as I understand, the whole country is basically in tier 5. And they're not finished, obviously, at tier 5 either. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to share this with you, because we're being told that the new mutant strain, because you see, COVID-19 is so 2020. The new mutant strain is where it's at in 2021. And yes, actually, Chris Davis is right. Yeah, we flattened the old COVID curve, David. This is the new COVID curve. Well, you see, I totally understand what you're saying. Let's all look at precisely what the facts say, though, shall we? Let me just see if I can do this one. Wanted to show you this graph, folks. Comes from Public Health England, by the way, for those doubters out there who doubt my figures and stats. And as you can see, this is the number of all causes death in all ages with the dominant circulating respiratory virus from 2016 to the very end of 2017. Now, folks, you can see every winter there's a resurgence of respiratory illness and accompanying all causes death. You can see that 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and then boom, you see there, folks, there's the COVID. That's when COVID-19 hit. And as you can see, it caused a significant spike, which is absolutely obvious. But then look at what happened during the rest of 2020. It fell right back. And if you look towards the very, very last part of 2020, the number of deaths corrected has fallen back to a level which is below that in 2019, below about the same as 2018, below that in 2017, and about the same as that in 2016. So whenever the media besiege you guys by telling you, but this is the Spanish plague coming back, I'm afraid the data doesn't really agree with this analysis. So the thing is that facts are a bit inconvenient, and in this case, the facts are that the huge surge in deaths, which is being implied and suggested, and in other ways portrayed in the media and by fraudsters like Boris Johnson. When you see that, when you see what they say and you look at the figures, they don't relate, folks. If we were seeing a spike like we did back in March, April, there would be every reason to be uber cautious and to take precautions. But frankly, there's not. And the numbers, whether some people like it or not, are not traveling in that direction. I mean, it's very disappointing to see some people on social media, like, for example, my friend John Gaunt, jump up and down demanding that Boris lock us all down. Well, I'm sorry, John, but I don't want to be locked up. I don't want to have my liberty taken away. And actually, to go back to the comment which Mark Stevens made here, these are the questions that people like John Gaunt and the other COVID fanatics need to sort of address. Come up with a number of people that you think should surrender their lives. Absolutely right, for your safety. That's the point Mark Stevens makes. It's a bloody good point. And then Chris also makes a really interesting point. First of all, let me just remove this one so I bounce back. Boop, there I am. Chris says people filming empty hospitals is on the rise. People are waking up. Yeah, more people are getting red pilled, I guess. Chris, NHS saying are all lies. The nurses are complicit. The issue of empty hospitals, it is an interesting one, Chris, because I've seen lots of these videos, and of course, the usual line is to say, but look, this is the outpatients area. Of course, it would be empty. The NHS doesn't see outpatients anymore. Well, but if the hospitals are under such siege, there must be a huge concentration of staff in one little area then, because the COVID wards do not occupy all of the hospitals. However, for those who follow me over on Facebook, I do have some very interesting information, which I will be hopefully posting tomorrow. I'm getting it double checked and double verified. FOI information on numbers of people actually dying of COVID-19, factually, and so on and so forth. I will, once I've got that information independently verified, I will put it out and people can have a look at the chasm between that which we're being told and actually that which has happened in our hospitals and care homes. So Chris, but people are dying in ambulances. They keep telling us on the news. Yeah, I'm afraid, the reality on this one is, folks, that what happened in 2020 was too many people bowed down and worshipped the governments and took the government's advice. And because they did that, the one thing that, one thing governments learned is it can push us as far as it wants. I see some of your comments. Kim says 1984 is 2021. Yep. Completely agree, Kim. Jed says there's been 8 deaths where he lives in Morecambe since March. 8 deaths. I'm sure you've seen this, folks. This is the new, I think it's like an online website you can go on, type in your postcode, and it gives you the number of deaths in your sort of immediate area. For England and Wales, it doesn't apply for me over here in the People's Republic of Northern Ireland. Chris says, I don't believe a word they say anymore. I mean, how many are like Chris, who just doesn't believe that which they're being told? I don't, Chris. I believe very little of what I am being told. I wish that people could be honest. I'm talking now about the political class, the senior NHS staff, not the people working necessarily in the wards, but the senior staff. And Ellie makes the point. Makes the point. Northern Ireland is now twinned with the Democratic Republic of North Korea. Sharon says, "Hi Sharon. The people that haven't gotten that this is a farce never will." Well, you see, this is the awful reality. And Sharon makes another really good point. I suspect that the folks who are now going to go, thank you, Boris. Thanks for locking us down. Thanks for taking away our jobs. Thanks for taking away our contact with fellow human beings. Thanks for allowing us to hide under the stairs for another couple of months until we get our vaccine. Those people are probably beyond the pale, which I think, Sharon, is the point you've made to me. Those people are like, the boat's been, I think the analogy Sharon used to me, which is a good one, is that it's like, the boat has been sunk, right? The boat's hit, or the ship has hit an iceberg. It's fatally holed. The ship is going to go down. And people are saying, listen, we've got to jump off this thing, because if we don't, it's going to take us down. And the shocking reality is quite a number of our fellow citizens are determined to stay on the sinking ship. I think, Sharon, I've summarized the position reasonably well. And that's, of course, pretty much where we are. Some people are just blind to this now, and they won't entertain any notion that this is anything other than an incredible medical emergency that requires these particular decisions and restrictions. And, for me, I don't deny COVID-19 or COVID-20 as it is now. I question the proportionality and the appropriateness of the political decisions that are being made. In particular, those are the things I question. Chris says, teachers not turning up for work today, but quite happy to go supermarketing and do shopping. Bloody good point, Chris. That's right. The teachers who think it's not safe to go to work, or do think it's safe enough to go to Tesco. Why is that? Oban1 says, everyone should attend their local testing sites and hospitals to video what's really going on. I have done so recently in Cumbria. Oban1, if you send me that information, I'll be really interested in receiving it. And just another comment here that Chris says, if you speak up against it, you're like an anti-vaxxer. Well, exactly, Chris. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Most people I know aren't anti-vaxxers, but we're being misrepresented and demonized by being suggested that we are. Gaza says you can get arrested in Scotland for standing outside your house. Just think about that for a moment. Well, Gaza, bad and all as Boris Johnson is, and he is bad. Nicola Sturgeon is 100 times worse. And as for the clown that runs Drakeford in Wales, it probably is literally twinned with the North Korea. George says, I deny it because of this California scientists say using the CDC say they can't find it in samples. The one thing, George, that I would say is that as regards, the actual virus itself, it is clear that in 2020, last year, COVID-19 virus did have a significant health impact across the world. Oddly enough, not in China, the place where it came from, though. Isn't that strange? Isn't it strange nobody in the media has asked, how did Wuhan recover from COVID-19? Because they don't have any vaccination program there. How did that happen then? Isn't it strange? I wonder, will anyone ever investigate that? Well, of course, Matrix makes a good point. They're all on the same team. Of course, you're dead right. They all... Chris says, Kim Jong Drakeford. What's the end game, Chris? We are already being led into. I think actually Jaeger is a good one. We're fighting an endless and unwinnable war, just like 1984. So much of this is just like 1984. It is. People are being divided against each other. I'm sure you saw the little thing I posted on one of my social media channels in Ireland, an official government poster telling people to, if they see their neighbours not wearing a mask, to report them to the authorities. I saw that, and that was pure 1984. I'm sure you'd agree with me on that one. Just reading, Kim says, Nicola Sturgeon seems to be relishing each new restriction by the tone of her voice today. Absolutely, Kim. She loves it. This is the thing. I laughed at Laura Kuenssberg on the BBC, because you see, Laura doesn't get to whinge about Brexit anymore, so she has to whinge about something else. So she was on the BBC there at about 6:30 telling us that Boris doesn't want to do this. This is the last thing Boris wants to do, but he's going to have to lock you up anyway. And it just makes me laugh. It's perfectly obvious that this government is hell-bent on locking us up. And Tebeth says, remember the photos of people dropping dead in the streets in Wuhan? We don't see that anymore. Well, Tebeth, I think that's because it never happened. I think it was all fake. I think it was all set up by the Chinese. I think if we want to hand out, the responsibilities for this disaster, it lies, and it started in China. Responsibility lies in China. Dog Soldier points out interesting statistic here that deaths in most countries in Africa are around 2,000. Yeah, that's in a continent where I think the population runs into billions, and 2,000 people have died. And Craig makes a really good point. There will always be COVID variants, just like there are always new flu variants. So there is no way out of this. Craig, you're so right. And folks, this is perhaps the most disturbing thing of all, because there will be no variants. You can see the politicians have and I presume at the behest of their medical advisors, they've moved the goalposts, and it's not really COVID-19. It's the new mutant version of COVID-19 that requires us to go back to where we all started. And as has been observed by Craig here, the reality is there'll be further new variants. So that means they can keep locking us down, strangling business, causing misery, creating loneliness, destroying children's educations. This is what they are doing, and it's just a matter of observable fact. People can get all hot up about me saying this, but I'm just observing the fact that the government is systematically demolishing so much of our economy. Why, it's like the sort of thing you would do if you were going to have a great reset, isn't it? But of course, we better not talk about that on Facebook or YouTube because reasons. However, I might put a few, you should make sure you're following me in Parler, by the way, because I can put videos up on Parler or in Rumble where I actually get to speak without the censorship of these dreadful Facebook and YouTube channels. Just FYI. What's this? Old folk I know washing their shopping because of fear. Yeah, I get that, Jagger. Yeah, yes. It's amazing. Meanwhile, Nick points out, very good point, Nick. Taiwan has no lockdown, has a death toll of 7, population around 24 million. You see, is it just possible, and I'll just leave this thought hanging with you, is it possible that lockdowns make things much worse? Is it possible that the rituals of lockdown, namely the mask wearing in particular, could that exacerbate health problems? Because as I say, when you go back to the fundamentals in all of this, the fundamental facts on the deaths, when you look at the fundamental facts on the deaths, you can see that at the end of 2020, they weren't very much different from the end of 2019, 18, 17, 16. There was really very different. So I'd like someone to explain to me how, where is this awful, where is the second wave? Where is the second wave? And I'll tell you it's not there. There is no second wave. What we're seeing is a return of respiratory illnesses in the winter, which can surprise nobody. And that's one of the questions I would raise of the NHS. Did the NHS not see this coming? I mean, we were told to stay at home to protect the NHS, which in my view is completely wrong. The NHS is there to protect us, but the government successfully fooled people into, first of all, thinking that they have to protect the NHS, and then in the second instance, giving away their liberty in the back of that. As Globus Hysteric says, stuck indoors or masked breathing stale air for a year. What could go wrong? Absolutely right. Really good point. Please ask. Oh, okay, open. We got that. Understand that. And tell your dad we're all going to die one day. Well, viruses and Jed, of course, a voice of reason, as always on the stream here, says viruses don't come in waves. They come and they stay. They stay. And yes, that's right, Jed. And they mutate. And that's reality. Now, Sharon's back with a really good point. Lockdowns are destroying people's immune systems. again, absolute common sense. And this is what annoys me, so much about of what we see. That being out in the fresh air is good for us human beings. Exercise is good for us. I'm a regular swimmer, or at least I was, but for most of 2020, my swimming pool has been closed, so I can't swim anymore. People say, oh, go out for a walk, you can do that. Well, no, if you're working during the day and it gets dark at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, what, go out walking in the dark? I mean, how does that work? So Sharon's right. Our immune systems are being destroyed, being compromised at any rate by, number one, restricting the sort of our ability to have decent exercise, by keeping us stuck indoors out of the sunlight. I mean, occasionally we get sunlight. Again, this is where when you look at the proportionality of what the government's implementing, it really doesn't hang together in any way at all. And this is why I'm so. So I'm just trying to read some of your comments as I'm talking here. It's a bit tough because they come fast and furious. And I see the comment. So George had said his dad hasn't left the house for 3 months. He's frightened to death. George, I'm really sorry to hear that about your dad. Lots of elderly people are in that position. I fully understand that. I blame the government. I blame the media, the BBC. I blame the hysterics who want, who basically talk up the chances of death. I mean, the chances of death of COVID-19 or the new, more mutant version of it are still remarkably, they're not massive for even that elderly age group. I'm not sure what age your dad is, George, but the reality is that most people will not die of this, and my source for that is Chris Whitty, by the way. Jed makes again the excellent point: 10 million asymptomatic people tested in China, in Wuhan no less, and not one passed on the virus to anyone else. That's right. So are the Chinese lying when they tell us this? Well, I mean, I'm not sure about that, because the BBC the World Health Organization certainly trust the Chinese. And that, I mean, Jed makes a very good point. If there's no evidence that asymptomatic people pass it on, if that be the case, and as I say, the evidence provided by China in the single biggest experiment of conducted, there was no symptomatic transmission. Kim says, true story, my friend's 104-year-old uncle just died. Guess what's on the death certificate? I wonder what the answer could be. And again, this is another point. I wanted to raise this one as well with you folks. The death certificates is a complex issue, and I know people have heated views on all sides in this one. But my view on this one is that if, as the way it's set up at the moment, if someone dies in the previous 28 days and have tested positive for COVID-19, that is put on their death certificate. Now, it may not be that the death certificate, because the death certificate comes in, there's two parts to the death certificate. And again, I'll reveal all of this tomorrow on my Facebook. So if you're not following me on Facebook, look me up and apply to be my friend, and I'll accept you over on Facebook. But if someone dies of cancer, but they had a positive PCR test, then that's a cancer death. It's not a COVID-19 death. That's the point. And I believe that there is, to put it mildly, some confusion about that, and there's media misrepresentation of that. Chris says, it says deaths in all circumstances having tested positive in the last 28 days. Correct. Now, I'm not, and someone says, is that David Vance Facebook or Alt News Media Facebook? It's actually David Vance Facebook, applied on my personal site. I do have a personal site over there, and you're welcome to join me over there. But the point that I wanted to go back to what Chris was saying is that, all deaths in all circumstances. But that means theoretically, if you are involved in a road accident, and I don't know, you drive into a wall and you're killed outright instantly, but 3 weeks previously you had a positive PCR test, you are then, that goes on to your death certificate, both things obviously, but the media translate that as a COVID death. It's not a COVID death. And I know of other people who I know of a family relative who were someone died of renal failure. However, the death certificate came back and COVID-19 was given as if it were one of the primary causes rather than simply they tested positive for it. And by the way, here's one other point, just while we're at it, particularly in the NHS. Another point I wanted to make. A huge amount of COVID infections are happening in hospitals. These hospitals are not safe places. Probably the most dangerous place you can go is in a hospital. Now, that's one reason why I actually probably think that hospital staff should be given the vaccine. I think, unless they're conscientious objector, but by and large, I think they should have the vaccine. But do remember, the COVID vaccine does not stop transmission of the virus nor infection from the virus. It ameliorates the most severe symptoms of the virus. The manufacturers don't claim that it stops transmission. The manufacturers don't claim that it stops infection, but they do claim that it ameliorates the worst symptoms, as far as I understand it anyway. So, again, there's a fundamental dishonesty out there, which is kind of shocking. It shocks me that there's so much dishonesty. PCR, Simon says PCRs don't work. Well, I think the PCR test, Simon, is being abused and used in a way that the inventor of the PCR system never envisaged. I also think if we're going to use the PCR rate, let's find out what the false positive rate is. Shall we have that information as well? And if not, why not? Why can't we find out what the false positive percentage is? And then, Craig makes another really good point. Craig, thanks for coming on the stream, by the way. You're making some brilliant points. The medical profession is complicit in this fraud. Well, that's a very bold statement, but I think a lot of people will be asking big questions of those who play along with stuff. And it would be fair to say that, I have my contacts within the NHS. So I speak with a degree of knowledge of some of these things. And again, there are politics being played within the NHS. And that's the reality of it. Chad says, when the media and politicians open their mouths, we all know they're lying. Well, that's very true. So look, folks, I mean, that's where we are. From midnight tonight, if you live in England, you're plunged into the return of the March lockdown, pretty much. In Scotland, it's the return of the March lockdown from 2020. And I believe Northern Ireland will follow. I haven't seen, let me just check as we are here together, assembled. If there's any breaking news from Stormont. Not yet. The geniuses at Stormont are meeting. I can feel the electricity of their intellectual power, even from this distance. Actually, there's a good point, by the way. The hospitals must be saving a fortune, says Chris. Empty wards, cancelled operations, cancelled cancer treatments. It's hard to say. Thanks very well. Thank you for to my friends at Open Dialogus. I appreciate the kind words. So, as I say, in all of this, trying to bring the whole piece together for you here. I obviously, like all sensible people, want to protect our vulnerable. I want to protect those, the elderly people in particular who have got comorbidities, which constitute a real and present threat. So I'm happy for those people to be protected. I'm also adamant that closing down society on the rest of us is appalling. It's an active war on the people of this country. And that's kind of what we're going through. So I expect when I waken up tomorrow morning, in Northern Ireland, we will join you folks in England and Scotland and Wales in North Korean style house arrest. But listen, did you see Boris? And by the way, could Boris Johnson just comb his hair? I mean, I mightn't have hair, but when I did have hair, I knew how to comb it. I wish he would comb his hair and try and look half presentable. And I don't fall for the faux Churchillian hand movements. Look, folks, we've got to stick together to get through this. I mean, he's repeating the same crap that he came out with in March 2020. And honestly, it is enough with us here. And it's sad that so many people won't waken up. But as has been said on the stream here, I think for those people who won't waken up, we have to consign them. They can stay on HMS or the Titanic as it prepares to plummet to the bottom of the Atlantic. And the rest of us have to try and swim for safety. How do we swim for safety? We keep our critical thinking faculty open. We ask questions. We challenge. We don't just accept. I haven't worn a mask since this all started. I'm not wearing a mask because I believe it's bad for me. It's bad for my immune system. I also believe, due to the government's own website, I have an exemption from it. And so, I'm not playing along with them. I'm not prepared to bend down and do what this wicked government wants. Craig says the hair is part of the act. Yeah, Craig, very good point. Very, very good point as well. George says we must never stop asking questions. You're right, George. We must never stop asking questions. That's called critical thinking. I mean, I'm quite happy for people to challenge me. I have no problem with that. Everything I try to do is based on facts and factual data. Now, I understand that data can be interpreted differently. I do get that, but it is important that we stick to facts and data. Open Dialogue just says we need a true conservative political party, not Boris and his socialist party. Well, this is so true. I mean, that's why, to be honest with you, I find it very hard to get excited about Brexit, because as I said on another stream, just before the new year, something around about that time, I said that, it's all very well to be leaving the European Union, but, we're being now held captive by our own government. So what's worse? Simon joins me in not wearing one, and he hasn't and have not stopped work, still being as normal, eat sandwiches at work. Yep, good for you. Hello, Tigers Bay, by the way. Nice to see you in the stream. Thanks very much for joining us. So, look, that's it, folks, from me for tonight. I've kept you up enough of your time. So I'll leave you to enjoy the last 3 hours of freedom before the hammer blow comes down. And by the way, anybody thinking that this is going to last until just mid-February, you're living in cuckoo land. You know what's coming. This has been profitable. We've talked about this for a long time in this channel. The more they lock us down, the longer they will lock us down, because they get away with it. And that's the awful truth. And so it is important in 2021 to be voices that stand up and question everything. Yeah, English Stacey says 2025, probably 25, maybe 2035. Universal basic income. Yeah, I understand all those things. Lots of good content there, folks, to talk about. So again, look, that's pretty much it for me. Sorry for the technical problems that have beset me all day today. Trying to work my way through them. But anyway, the audio stream hopefully works pretty much just as well. I mean, at the end of the day, who wants to see me? So look, that's it from me. Thank you very much. I see a good turnout from everyone tonight. Thank you for being here. Thanks for all your comments. As always, your comments are what make my streams. It's not me, it's you that make this. So thanks for being there. Thanks for sort of standing in solidarity with those of us who seek to see that science is followed, and that facts are followed, and that tyranny is resisted. And that's really where we're at. So thank you, folks, very much. And I will be back on Open Dialogus live stream tomorrow night. I'll be hosting that one. So you can look forward to that. And in the meantime, there's going to be a Facebook exclusive coming out tomorrow. And it's going to be very much based on facts that some people mightn't like to see. So make sure you're following me over on Facebook as well. Bye for now, everyone, and catch up with you folks tomorrow night on Open Dialogus. Thanks very much.